Hello, and welcome to the Sennheiser Don't Stop the Education series from the Sennheiser Sound Academy. Today, your host will be the relationship management team from Sennheiser of Jessica Dabbs. Hey, Jessica. Andy Edgerton. Hey, Andy.
Hello. Hi.
And myself, Tim Moore. And I think we're going to have a really fun day today as we have the crew from Blake Shelton, or at least part of the crew, and some good friends of ours here at Sennheiser. And with that, I'd like to welcome Ed Harden. Hey, Ed. Jeff Pig Parsons. Hey, Jeff. Brad Baisley. Jason Herden. And Tracy Broussard. Hey, guys.
Good morning, Tim.
And
Morning.
welcome, and thanks for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Andy for a minute to get us started here.
Okay, thanks, Tim, and thanks for joining us, everyone. So this will be a lot of fun, and hopefully everyone will learn a little bit if you're not in the industry, or if you are and it's kind of missing it at the moment with what's going on. This will be quite a bit of entertainment for you. We've got two backline techs, monitor engineer, front of house, and a member of the band, Tracy the drummer, so we can get a good idea of how you all work together and interact with each other. But I'm just going to go around the table and just take 2 or 3 minutes just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry, how long you've been doing your role, and if you do any other roles, that kind of thing. And I'll start with Tracy, please, if that's all right.
Hello, everybody. Tracy Broussard, drummer with Blake Shelton. I've been in that position for about 17 years now, and it's been a great time. And Tim Moore will deny it till the day goes by, but he's the reason I'm in this position. So I won't get too much into that to embarrass Tim, but he was very influential in getting me into this job, and that I'm very thankful for. And it's been yeah, exactly. It's been such a great journey coming from where Blake was in 2003 to where he is now. The growth has been amazing. The width and breadth, if you will, of the shows has gone the full gamut. I remember one 4th of July, and Pig can attest to this. We were playing a bowling alley in Canada, and we're gone from playing, and there was maybe, I don't know, 13 people there. And see, we were social distancing way before it was cool. So we had the edge before anybody else. But I'm just thankful to be able to be in a position to where Blake's a great dude to work for. Our crew is amazing. And those are hard to come by. So I'm just grateful that Tim got me in. And I'm glad that we still have a relationship, even though there's been some fun times we've had. And we're not going to talk about that either. So that's me in a nutshell.
I think you wrote a song that night at the bowling alley.
Would you like me to sing it, or you want to hold off on it?
No, we'll hold off on that.
Thanks, Tracy. That's brilliant. Let's jump across to Jeff, please. A little bit of background about yourself, if we may.
Okay, I'm Jeff Parsons. They call me Pig. I've been doing this for a while. I don't know. I've been with Blake 18 years. Tracy says the same as him, but no, he wasn't there when I started. But let's see. I don't know. My whole family's in the music, so that's how I got started in the music business. Running sound from my brother's bluegrass band, and then my brother's top 40 rock and roll band, and then I moved to Nashville in like 80. I can't remember. I used to drink a lot, somewhere in there. And anyway, as I've been and worked for some other artists, and then I've been with Blake for 18 years, and great gig, great people to work with. So that's what's so good about my gig. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Let's jump down the other end of the multi-car and go to Brad Baisley. Welcome back. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
You did an IEM session for us a few months ago now, but welcome back as part of the crew. So yeah, if you could just give us a little background into your history, that would be fantastic.
Sure. I'm Brad Baisley. I'm Blake's monitor engineer. I've been with him for about 8 years or so, full time. I did a little bit with him before then. Actually, and the reason I'm here is because of Pig. when Pig started working on digital consoles, I helped Pig get started and learn how to do it and set up his stuff for him. And he and I just struck it out and had a good relationship. And when the time came that the monitor engineer position with Blake became open, he brought me into it. And I'm still here, glad to be working with all these guys. The band's amazing, and the crew's great to work with too. So yeah, I came to Nashville about 98 or so and started touring full time in 2002.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And then we'll jump over to backline. I didn't catch before, Ed and Jason, which part of the backline you look after. So if you could just sort of give us a little highlight about that and a little intro about yourself. I'll start with Ed, since I was unmuted.
Hi, I'm Ed Harden. I've been with Blake for 7 years, and I owe my buddy Jason Herndon a lot of gratitude for bringing me on board. We were both working with different bands, and Jason started working with Blake, and they needed a drum tech and guitar tech and some other things. So I met with him and Tracy, and we all hit it off. And so I've been here 7 years. So I take care of stage left. I do bass, take care of the bass player, Rob Bias, Kevin Post, the utility player, and then Tracy Broussard, my buddy.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, I'm Jason Herndon. I guess I've been with Blake for 8 years, I think. I started out doing artist relations for Fender and Gretsch guitars, and when that position was dissolved in like 2011. So shortly after that, I went on tour with guitarist Eric Johnson and learned a bunch of stuff really quickly. I was the bass and drum tech, and I'd never been a tech at all, but I had a personal relationship with Eric just from some R&D stuff with Fender when they were doing a new signature model. And then when I was laid off from Fender, he was nice enough to give me a job. And then after putting Eric Johnson on my work resume, it just kind of happened really quick. A production manager for Blake called me on a Monday, and then on Wednesday I was on the bus 8 years ago. So I started out, I was Bo Tackett's tech, the lead guitar player, stage right, for a little while. And then I was moved to tech for Blake. So now I'm Blake's guitar tech. I also tech for Janae Fleener, fiddle, mandolin, guitar. And then I also tech for Philip DeSteiger. So that's B3, Hammond, and a guitar and a couple of pianos, a couple modules, computer. I have a lot. During the show, I only I'm mainly teching for Blake, but we all have a lot of responsibility. We're all real good at sharing the responsibility. Ed and Brad helped me out a ton. And if I'm honest, when I started doing this with the Blake crew, I didn't even know how to sync a wireless pack. And Brad was nice enough to show me how to do it. So a lot of gratitude for everyone on the crew and everyone in the band, and I'm just grateful to be part of it.
Amazing. Sounds like you've been together quite a long time. Like it's 7 or 8 years is the sort of minimum there. Fantastic. There's going to be a lot of people watching this webinar who kind of are on the start of their journey and wanting to get into it. What can you remember back to your first tour that you did, and how it's maybe changed, or what you'd advise someone looking to get into your roles now? What would the sort of top tips that you'd maybe give them? I'll start with Tracy again.
From a drummer's perspective, that position has changed quite a bit with the onset of new technology. Of course, running tracks is very important now, and that's a huge part of it. And so it used to be, I guess, when I moved in the mid-90s, playing in a country band, which was my goal. I wanted to tour with a country artist. So you had to have your bag of tricks. You had to have a good waltz. You had to have a good train beat. Your shuffle had to be on point. You had to be able to play ballads and whatnot. And now the music has changed so much. It's not so much of that as it is being technologically savvy, knowing Ableton or knowing computers and stuff like that. So you have two roles. You have to be a good drummer, solid drummer. And what I would recommend, if you are going to go this path as far as commercial music, popular music, the drummer's role is basically to be as consistent as possible and stay out of the way. And that is even more prevalent with tracks. Everything's layered, and then you have musicians on stage. So depending on the genre, and I'll just talk specifically about modern country music right now, the drummer's job is to just be consistent and find those pockets where you can play in between the loops and the layering and all the other stuff. Country music has always been about the song, and that's one thing that has not changed. So my job in a way is to stay out of that. Don't interfere with the song. And I've always realized my name is not on those tickets. Blake Shelton's name is on the tickets. So I need to do whatever I can for him to be the best that he can be as far as performance, not be a distraction, and let those songs convey themselves the way they need to be. So starting out, work with a click track, because everything you're going to do from this point on is going to be time-based. One thing I've been doing since we've been shut down a little bit, I marched drumline in high school. So what I started doing was, and it's crazy that I never did this, I sit down with a practice pad and the metronome and run through all those exercises that I used to do. And considering that I was in marching band, you're marching at the same time. So left, right, left, right, left. So I'm moving my feet as I'm doing these exercises, making sure everything's lining up. And so not only does that help me solidify my timing, it also spares my family from me playing the same song over and over and them having to leave the house. So start to learn in everything you should do, every practice, everything that you do it with a metronome. And also learn how to prepare. There's a time for practice and there's a time for rehearsal. Practice is what you do at your house. Rehearsal is what you do when you get with the rest of the band. You don't want to be that guy that doesn't know his parts. Don't be that guy. Drummers have a bad enough reputation as it is about, we won't go there. But you know, we have to break the cycle in a way that we have to be I always try to be the most prepared guy in the room, which is hard because we have a great band. So it's almost like everyone's prepared, and I don't want to be that guy. So don't be that guy. And before you're forced to do it, jump into the track side of things, because it's going to be an asset. When you get that first job, first gig, chances are you're not going to just jump on with an artist who's immediately successful. You're probably going to get on with a newer artist, and they might not have a huge budget to have a tracks operator. So if you can do both, that's a big selling point for you. And kind of like what I did with Blake, I kind of jumped in gradually and learned as I went. That's the best thing to do. Learn that stuff, and it's a huge asset. So those would be my 3 pieces of advice, I guess, if you're getting started, unless you want to, you know, avoid a life of misery, then this is what you need to do. Or you can go work somewhere else, I guess.
That's great tips. We had a drummer on last week who does both roles as well, Ali. But yeah, that's great advice. The bit about practice and rehearsal is great. As a former sound engineer, we appreciate that from someone who's mic'd up a lot of drum kits while someone's decided to start practicing is not a huge amount of fun.
That's the worst, man. I've learned and seen the pain in techs' faces when they're miking up that snare drum, especially the bottom snare drum mic, and you decide, hey, let me play that bottom lick right now. That's terrible. Oh man, and you'll get the stink eye. But some drummers, there's some dudes that do it and they don't care. They're like, sorry, you're just a tech. But I love Ed and I love Jason and I love Brad, and I would never do that. Pig's deaf, so he's fine. But those other
He's a long
3
way
guys,
away as well.
What'd you used to do it to me for then?
well, because I didn't like you.
Well, that's what I figured.
Fantastic. And I'll jump to Jeff actually, because there was a little, the link there between Brad and Jeff, obviously, when you move from analog to digital. How have you found that change? And like, are you a fan of it, or do you prefer the old days when it was a bit more analog based? What do you think about that?
Miserable. Miserable. I was one of those guys that wasn't going to go digital, you know. I
Yeah.
said, no way, I'm not going to go digital. And I was using like a Midas, 3K, 3500s or whatever, Heritages, a lot of Heritages at the time. We never carried front of house. We carried a monitor rig with Blake. I've talked about with Blake when I started with him. We didn't even carry that when I started, you know. Tracy, we might have had a tech when Tracy started, but I used to get my head banged on by the drummer a lot too, you know.
So
But
you just dial in every day straight off on an analog.
everything.
Amazing.
Everything. We used to. I don't anymore.
Yep.
You
No,
know,
of
I didn't
course not.
want to go
It's totally
digital.
different, isn't it?
I didn't want to go digital, of course. And it was like, you either go digital or you're going to get left behind, you know. You're going to lose your gig.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
I took a chance on it. Luckily, we did that George Strait tour, and they let me use their profile all year, opening up for them. So I got really used to it. It was all right sounding. So, you know, that's my job, just make it the best I can make it, sounding the best I can make it, no matter what I got. So
Guess that's
I
a
got
top
comfortable
tip,
on that desk. Brad really helped me out. Brad laid everything out for me real easy. He still does that. He does it. He really helps me out 100%. So makes the old man, makes it comfortable for me, you know.
Fantastic.
So
Brad, what advice would you give to someone sort of starting out then?
Well, I came up right at the changeover between analog and digital, so it was kind of interesting for me that I learned on analog, but very quickly had to start learning how to run digital consoles, and that's how I got a lot of my first gigs. Was I was one of the only people around that knew how to run early digital consoles. So to that end, I'd say learn every piece of new gear you can, however you can do it. Go beg at a sound company, say, please let me set up a console and learn it. And I still do that. I'll still go to training on consoles I might not ever use, but I'll learn a new workflow that I can apply to what I am using. And then, you know, from a people perspective, it also helps to make those relationships with sound companies and equipment manufacturers. And that'll get you a long way. As long as you're a good person and you're on time and you know a lot of people, you'll get gigs.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'll jump to Ed and Jason just if they want to add anything, because obviously Ed brought Jason in. Jason brought Ed in, sorry.
Jason brought me in, yeah.
Yeah. So it's talking about those relationships then, do you like with advice for people getting in there, is it a huge relationship base, like get to know as many people as you can?
Absolutely, yeah. Brad and I both graduated from Middle Tennessee State University through the RIM program there. I did music business program, and as soon as I got out, I mean, I was playing drums a little bit in town, and just networking with people, and got a job at Soundcheck Rehearsal Facility. Met Jason there when he was with Gretsch. And just met as many people as I could, started teching a little bit, met a lot of players, tour managers, just anybody, and got recommendations and went on some tours and worked with different artists. And it's all about networking. And like Brad said, being a good person, being able to show up on time and do what you say you're going to do, and being able to hang on a tour bus. Sometimes I know Pig probably doesn't like the things I do on the tour bus, but we have a good time.
That's right.
So yeah, it's been fun. And the Blake crew, I love it, man. We got a good group of people. The band's great. You know, Tracy kind of gets, he gets a little close to me sometimes, but you know what? We love each other. We've got a deep relationship.
I mean, that's part of the growth, not only physically and spiritually and emotionally. I think our relationship it's gone past drums.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what's kind of fun about it. When we do a gig or we get together, it doesn't really feel like work. It feels like kind of a reunion of sorts. and there's music going on and work in the background.
Don't tell our
And-
wives that. Don't tell our wives. We're just out there working. We're not having any fun.
Terrible.
Dude, you want to talk about wives, man? Listen, with this shutdown, bro, I take a 3-month on a bus out west at any time right now. If y'all said we were leaving at midnight, I'd actually be early. I'm like, let's go,
No,
man.
you
Never.
wouldn't. You wouldn't be
Shut up.
No,
early.
you wouldn't.
Yes, I would, Jason. It's a new me, bro.
No, you
It's a
wouldn't.
new me.
Brilliant. Finally, yeah, Jason, let's a little bit of your background, please, and then.
I'll kind of build on to what Ed said, you know, like just to make it clear, you know, I didn't recommend Ed to work for Blake because he was my buddy. I recommended him because of his, I mean, the way I saw it, I mean, that's great. I mean, of course, you know, you want to work with your buddy, but I saw the way that he worked, and he was so elaborate and just thorough. And it was just like, because you got to vouch for when you vouch for someone, they have to do a good job.
Yeah.
If they don't, it comes back to you like, when did you bring this guy in? So, you know, Ed, I did say you need to hire, you know, you should look at Ed and hire him, but it was just because Ed was so good at what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him too, but when it came down to it, it was like he was the right dude for the job. You know, he had definitely proven himself to me, and I wanted other people to see that too, you know. So it was kind of a no-brainer. So I don't want to take a lot of credit for Ed's. Ed had already done the work, man. He knew more than I did. You know, I was a marketing guy doing artist relations, so that's
Ed's
just what I want to add.
Ed's got a great attention to detail.
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about being a
Don't
backup.
make me cry, guys. Come on now.
You have to
Somebody's gonna have
have
to get a cleanup room.
the advice that I would give. The advice that I would give is, if you want to get into this, you have to have a backup plan and a backup plan for that and a backup plan for that. Go as deep with the backup plan as you're comfortable with. Because for me, during the show, what I'm focusing on is I don't want to do anything that makes Blake have to feel uncomfortable or what's going on. Or, I mean, I want to be so consistent that it's just like, it's a dance with me and him. Like, I hand him a guitar. He's not sitting there waiting for me. You know, we just have this, the way that we move, and it makes him, my point is that my job, I feel, is to just make him comfortable while he's on stage, because he's trying to entertain thousands of people. So it's just, and for the band and everybody, it's just, we don't want him to be distracted. We got to let him do.
Yeah, and he's already got me to get him messed up anyway.
Me too.
Brilliant. I'm just going to say to the audience that here, there's a Q&A box down there. Please submit your questions, and we'll definitely put them forward. But for now, I'm going to pass back to the wonderful Tim Moore.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. I want to comment on what Tracy said, and it's about the preparation and him giving me credit for getting him the gig, and that's not it. I just mentioned him because of his preparation. We'd worked together before on situations where Tracy had to come in, no rehearsal, never meeting the rest of the bands or the band that he would come in, and he would know the show in and out. And I think that preparation is what all of you guys speak of on whatever your gig is. If you come in and you're ready, that's the best advice you can give somebody. So just for clarification there. But Pig and Tracy, question for you guys, 17, 18 years respectively. What changes have you seen, and what drove the changes in the makeup of the crew? Like Jeff was saying earlier, we when you were out there, I think in 2003, you did 300 shows almost, and you dialed up every day. I was lucky enough to have a console, but every day you dialed up from scratch. We didn't have any techs or anything. So how did the growth of the crew happen in your eyes, and what drove each time you increased the size of your crew?
Well, you go ahead, Jeff. You take that one, and I'll piggyback off you. Get it? Piggyback, because your name's Pig. See what I did there?
Oink, oink.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that a lot of people might not know, is that when I first started with Blake, you know, he had one guy doing everything. So I came on and just kind of took over everything except for the guy whose place I took was doing tour manager stuff like that. So I just become production manager, monitors, lighting, which I do not like, and front of house. So I'd have to do everything, you know. But the first one, as soon as we could get some more help, I got Tim Moore. That's where my relationship with Tim started. Was back then we brought him on, and he put a package together, and that's where this Sennheiser, I don't know if y'all can see me, but my low power light just came on. That's where this Sennheiser, that's where the Sennheiser deal came together. Tim put a Sennheiser package together for us, and we've been using them ever since. Let me fix my batteries, or plug my phone in and see if I can still talk to you guys. If
We can
not,
still hear you.
take over, Tracy.
Yeah, so starting up in 2003, we didn't have much of a crew, which meant as the drummer, you're setting up your stuff, you're teching your stuff, you're cleaning your cymbals, you're doing all the maintenance, changing heads and all that stuff. And we'd all laugh about it. When we get done with a show, we'd have to change into our crew clothes, because you don't look real cool when you get done playing a bar somewhere for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you come out and you're wearing the same show clothes you were and you're taking down the drums. So I had a running joke. I'd go to the bus, grab a cold Coors Light or whatever beer they had, drink one of those, change it to my show blacks, and then go out and tear the drums down. And I try to see if people would recognize if I was the same person. So I would just like, man, wasn't that drummer a jerk? God, he's terrible. And then to see the people that work at the club be like, yeah, he was kind of bad. I'm like, he was terrible. He's probably getting fired tonight. So I had fun doing that and messing with people. But and I know you guys, Ed, Jason, Brad, Pig, y'all will call me crazy, which you probably already do, or something worse. But I miss those times when we were all on one bus. I know y'all are going to be crazy and like, what are you talking about? And for those that don't know, there's one of the things, yes, there's the growth of an artist. They get number ones. They go from festivals to arenas to stadiums to whatever. As that happens, when an artist starts out, you're on one bus, band, crew, artist girlfriend, artist wife, both, whatever. But as the artist gets more successful, the logical split is the artist gets his own bus, and then him and the tour manager. And the reason for that is logistically, if the artist has to leave before the crew's done, they can get to the next place. Or in Blake's case, sometimes he had to go film something else or be early, be at the airport, and this is before he was flying everywhere and stuff. And so there was a certain camaraderie. So Blake had left the group and he's on his bus, but the band and crew were still together. And what was so funny, when Jeff became production manager, man, he was the quote unquote ball buster, because we had been up partying all night. And then he's like, if there was an 8 a.m. load in, well, guess who's knocking on your bunk? So, man, we hated it, but there was something fun about it. And looking back to where we are now, we don't tour a lot. We mainly tour in like February and March, and even in that, it's like maybe 5 weeks, and then we'll do like one-offs for the rest of the year. But you know, every summer I get a little nostalgic, because that was our busy time of the year. So we could leave for 10 days. I don't know where we're going, we could be California, could be Wyoming, could be Michigan, all in the same run, because routing, they just throw darts at a map, and that's what you do. And so you could be gone for 10 days, come back for 2, and then leave again for another 7. And that's how a summer was. And at that time I had younger kids. So it was like, okay, so I got 2 days to cut the grass and take them to a water park, and then I'm leaving again. But there was something there was a kinship of us being on that bus. I loved being home, don't get me wrong. But when I got on that bus and saw my buddies again, and we were watching TV and just cutting up and, you know, playing some music, it was fun. So now we go from this one arena show to another. It's ridiculous, to what we used to do. And we joke around about calling those corn dog festivals, which, you know, now we do these shows and we have catering and all this stuff. But there are festivals where your catering is a ticket to go to the corn dog stand. And that's what you get. And I remember Pig, one time we were doing this show in Wisconsin, and you only had a choice of one meat. You could either get one or the other. And Jeff was like, he's like, whichever one's cheapest. So those are the good old days, man.
Oh yeah. Good.
Hey,
So
back.
when did you sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
That's all right. I just saying I'm back.
Oh, okay. So when did you expand to adding the backline guys, Jeff?
When did we expand that backline guy?
Yeah.
Shoot. Well, I'd say it was probably about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
About 8 years ago.
We got,
So,
you know, after we hired you, went through you, and then I think we got went through a couple other monitor engineers before we added backline. Seriously, I mean, we got Blake a backline guitar tech pretty quick. Well, that was fun too. And then I think when we added trucks, we started getting backline guys. And you know, Blake's the kind of guy that he don't want no lazy band members. They can go out there and tech their own stuff. You know, that's what he used to say all the time.
Amen. Yes.
You remember that?
I think that's that hard-working Oklahoman mentality, man. Nothing comes easy, and by God, you're gonna earn it.
And don't come to load in slippers, in thongs. You know, on thongs.
Wait, a thong?
Is that the right word? Thong.
Are you wearing a thong right now? Yeah, Blake always said if you're wearing flip-flops, that means you're not coming in to do any work. You're not good. Nobody works in flip-flops.
Not willing to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'll flip this to.
I guess we hired a lighting guy after that. You know, we had a lighting guy first. You know, after we were together, we got a lighting guy.
And then he turned into lights and drums. That's a Nashville LD, lights and drums.
He started teching Tracy and the light. And now he was with us for a long time, old Jody Marks was. And now, you know, the more trucks you add, the more people you got to add, you know. Usually when they added a truck, when they went from the back of a bus and a trailer in the back of the bus to a truck, I usually quit, go get me another job, because that's too much work, you know. But I stuck it out on this one, and I'm still here. So I don't know where our questions are now, but
you remember when we'd have some musicians that would come on, and if they thought they were going to get fired, we always knew if their stuff was loaded last, they were done.
Oh yeah, I get the word, put their stuff at the end of the truck.
That's so they can get it when they get back to Nashville.
Yeah, they load their stuff at the end of the truck so they can get their stuff. We really, man, I don't know. We went through some piano players because they couldn't get the damn Baby down. You know, Baby and Austin, right?
The Baby and Nobody But Me.
Right, Nobody But Me. That's right.
No.
But hey, they're all doing good. They're all right.
So Jason, Ed, and Brad, this kind of goes to everybody, but if Tracy and Pig have been there for 17, 18 years, you guys 7 or 8 years each, coming into an existing crew and fitting right in and lasting this long, what makes a team successful to last this long together? What's the key to keeping a good team?
Doing what I said.
I would say mutual respect really is probably the most important thing. And just in listening and Yeah, I mean, I'm not great at keeping my mouth shut, like, but I always do the best when I do keep my mouth shut. I always have to learn the hard way, but it's about respect and listening and learning and just hesitating for 1 second before you react, you know, and just being calm. I'm not always calm either, but you know, I get better. It's just like it's almost, you know, it's like a friendship or like with family. I mean, you do the best when you're just calm and you listen and you don't think you know everything, and then you go to the people that do know more about something and just give them the respect to listening to them and learning from them.
Yeah, like Tracy said, my name's not on the marquee. Jason's not on the marquee. Pig's not on the marquee. So we all realize what we're there for, which is to put on a show. We're not there for me. We're not there for Ed. We're there for Blake and to make Blake look and sound and be as comfortable as possible. So just good old fashioned teamwork. Just make sure everybody knows what they need to do. And, you know, it helps to know a little bit about what everybody else is doing. So, you know, I sort of know how all of Ed's equipment works and what Ed's workflow is to get himself set up. So if I'm ahead and if I can help out, I can help him out. Or if he knows that I'm running behind, he can give me the space I need to do what I need to do.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that. I agree with Jason and Brad, and we've all definitely over the past 7-8 years had our moments and, you know, some heated moments, but we come together as a team. And I mean, I'm guilty of getting heated, you know, occasionally. Just in the heat of battle, you get flustered and you may get mad, but you overcome it. And here we are today, working as a team. But also, I think Tracy mentioned this, just Tracy or Jason, I can't remember, just making, as far as my guys, Tracy, Rob, and Capo, feel comfortable on stage, that they can count on me. And Tracy often tells me that I make him feel comfortable on stage.
Very comfortable behind the drum kit. You make me feel very comfortable behind the drum kit.
And so that's important to me, just to make them feel comfortable. And if Jason's got a problem stage right, or I have a problem, Jason will come over and maybe troubleshoot with me, or I can help him. Brad helps out a lot. Usually I can't help Brad out too much, even though we're on the same side of the stage, because Brad, he's a pretty smart guy, so he can figure out about anything, and he's a valuable asset to have on the crew for sure.
Don't we call him Brad Bot? He's a Brad Bot. We think he's a cyborg. We really think he's a cyborg.
So Tracy, you're the mentor for pausing before you speak, right? You
Yeah.
I've been the one to teach that one, right?
I'm teaching an online class, so I'm hoping Sennheiser sponsors it. Hint.
Absolutely. I know we have some questions coming in. Let me throw this to Jess for a minute. Have you got some things that are coming in we need to take a look at?
Yeah, we have a couple questions coming in from the audience. One from Molly Glenn is, as an aspiring tour manager, what crossover skills do you suggest that someone pick up? And there's no tour managers on this call, so you can say whatever you want. And this is for anybody.
Oh, Pig's kind of tour managed here and there, basically.
Learn how to be a travel agent, you know, right?
Yeah, for real.
Learn how to book hotels and accommodations and those kinds of things is what I see them doing. It's just a lot.
Especially just starting out. I mean, the tour manager, you're going to be everything. You're going to be the personal assistant to the artist. You're going to be the person making sure our green M&Ms show up on the bus. You're going to be the person that has to go get the money, and you're going to have to deal with the club owner when they try to short you, claiming that it was empty, but it really wasn't. And then your role, you're like a coach. You're the go-to. I try to stay clear of the sports analogies, but a good tour manager is like having a good coach. If you have a weak tour manager, you have a weak organization, and you have no respect. The worst thing ever is to be on the road with a weak person in that position, and the talk that goes on behind it. You know, that's also like you're like the general. you are leading us into battle every day. And in the military, if you don't respect the person that's telling you what to do, you're not going to do it full 100%. And so you have to be very strong, and you have to manage personalities. And I don't know how a tour manager does it, because the fact that we're in the music industry is evident that we are all in some way crazy. So we have a lot of egos. Everyone has an ego. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're not working at Walmart. And so you have to manage personalities. And then you have to have a knowledge of, basic bookkeeping skills, computer skills. And you might even get roped into social media. So starting out as a tour manager, you're going to have to have all hands on deck. And I don't envy anyone trying to do that. And as you've kind of experienced with the stories that we've told with Blake, the role tends to grow and also shrink at the same time, in that you're able to hire more people, but you're hiring more people because your artist is more successful, which means there's more demand on the artist. So then you become detached from the crew and the band because you're off taking the artist to a meet and greet or some store appearance or something like that. So don't ever get comfortable. It's never a position that's going to stay in the same. It's not going to be a static role at all. It's going to be constantly changing. So I don't know if any of you other guys have anything else, but dealing with a crew and what you expect from a tour manager is different than what the band has to expect. And guess what? Tour manager, you're going to be the first one up, the last one to bed. There's no partying for the tour manager. It's just like in Spinal Tap. You're not going to. What was that guy's name in Spinal Tap, the tour manager? Oh crap, I can't remember. No, it wasn't Ivan. It was
Ian?
something like that. Ian. There's no partying for Ian. I'm looking for mandolin strings in Austin.
Well, let's just say though that you mentioned you have to be like tough and firm, but it also involves hiring the right people. Like if you look at our tour manager, Kevin Kennedy, he's the most chill guy you could imagine, and I've never heard the guy raise his voice or yelling at anybody. And he's hired people that he trusts to be able to just do our job, and he gets out of the way and lets us do what we need to do. So
and I think that's a good part. That makes a great leader, when you hire people and you trust them to do their jobs and you don't have to micromanage. That's the key, man. Kevin just does a great job about it. He trusts people to do their job. And I think that kind of flows downhill from Blake, because that's kind of his mentality also. Blake has done a really good job of keeping people in the organization that he trusts and also that he likes having around. So that's a big thing. It's a tough job, man. I wouldn't do that one. Tim did some tour managing.
I did.
I think he's going to say no comment.
No, I actually enjoyed doing it. It was great, but you're right. It's a job that doesn't stop when you're off the road. You're answering calls the whole time, and you're most of the time dealing with really good personalities who are just looking for your help, and you've got to be understanding with it. But it's a tough job. You don't sleep a lot, and the phone rings at all hours, and you need to know people's frequent flyer numbers even 10 years later. So they still call and ask for their frequent flyer number. So it's you're right, Tracy. It's, if I gave advice on that, it'd be like detail oriented, understanding, but pay attention to when the downbeat is.
Yeah, that's true.
Good. Well, we'll do one more question from the audience real quick. We have one from Chris, and this one's just for Pig. What did you think was the most difficult thing transitioning from analog to digital consoles?
Just probably learning the workflow. You're used to doing something one way for so long, then you got to do it a different way. It just threw me away. It just threw me off. But you got to stick with it and keep doing it. The sound, I still love the sound of an analog console, but I love my digital console that I'm on now too. I don't think people ask me if I'd switch back, and I don't think I'd switch back. even if I could. I'm gonna have to have 2 giant heritages anyway to cover what I'm doing on this console anyway. So I think that's the hardest, is the workflow. Getting used to it.
Very nice. What's your input count now, Brad and Jeff?
Oh, for our arena shows, it's in the high 60s. And then when we strip back to going out to do clubs and festivals, it's in the 50s.
Gotcha. So with that, with all of those, with that number of inputs and everything that's going on, what's it look like when you guys get together for pre-production and planning, rehearsing for a tour? How do you guys work together to decide how many guitar channels do I need? How many channels of wireless do I need? How many channels of in-ears? What's that conversation look like? And who starts it?
Did you say pre-production?
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we've been running basically the same rig since I've started, and it really almost predates me. The general outline, it's just sort of evolved over the years. We just put it back together the same way it was. We don't try to reinvent things too much. It's working. The band is comfortable. I'm comfortable. Pig's comfortable. And so we just, I'll call the band, or Jason will call me and say, Janae wants another violin channel. Can we make that happen? Or something like that. But so we'll slot things in as needed, but we'll work with the same outline we've been working with. I don't see any reason to change what's working.
No, not at all. That's where a lot of people, I think, that just makes it harder, I believe. You know what? The easier, the better. Definitely for me, And Brad does all that pre-tour stuff. Brad is just an asset that you cannot do without on a tour, really. I tell you, he does everything.
Yeah, we just actually a couple weeks ago sent all of our equipment back to our vendor, and when we get ready to go do another show, I'll get with the vendor and they'll ask if I want to make any changes, and I might tell them maybe that I want to put it together a little bit different in the rack, the same equipment, but I want to plug it in better to make my workflow better. But they'll put it mostly together, and then I'll go in and help them do the fine details. And I try to have it all ready for me, whoever's going to be helping me plug it all in. And then I'll also have it set up comfortable for Pig too. So he just has to walk up to it and mix, hopefully.
Yeah, and he does a good job of that too. Brad does.
Did we lose Tim there? I think maybe.
Hello?
I think we lost him. I'll jump in and just bolt on a question there, if I may, from the audience. Someone's asking about how do you glue backing tracks together so that you can play with live instruments and balance the backing tracks. I think the question is more about kind of, do you use stems, and are they in like stereo pairs? And how do you decide what goes into those so you can mix live?
So
is that a process you all work on, or? Sorry, Tracy.
No, you're good. From a band perspective, we decide what is going to be played because we're a live band, and of course we want to convey that. We don't want to be too track heavy. That's one thing that has changed over the years. There's more emphasis on backing tracks. And so what I would do is get the stems from the studio session and then have a discussion with the band about who's playing what parts, and whatever parts are not being played, we would run those stems. And then we would, and of course there's always an adjustment. Someone might say, well, I'm going to play maybe this part in the chorus and this part in the verses. So then it's a matter of kind of splitting up those parts and working in Ableton and doing that stuff. So in a rehearsal perspective, we talk those things out. And then when it gets to playing live, we communicate with Brad, I do with Brad and Pig, about, hey, is this too hot? Do we need more of this, less of that? So we as a band get together, get the stems ready in Ableton, kind of pass them along to Brad and Jeff, and then we talk about what needs to come up. And then from their perspective, kind of blending those tracks in with our ear mixes, and then with Jeff, front of house mixes. And it's a neat interplay. I've seen it. It's really cool to hear what the backing tracks are and how they fit into a live thing, because the goal is to sound as much like the record as possible, but you also want to have a live element. And I think that's what makes Jeff so good at what he does, is because he can, man, and it's funny, sometimes higher ups show up and they want to have their input, but Jeff's the one that's there every night. And he's got an ear, and he's heard music for a long time, predating the Stone Age. So he knows music well. So there's an element of trust there. And to me, once it's out of the tracks operator's hands, it's up to the monitor guy and front of house guy to make those kind of come in together. And it's just for us and for Brad, and then getting the feedback for, well, this shouldn't be there, this should be there. And sometimes things get crossed up, like this is coming down one channel or something else, and you kind of have to trace your way back. But that wasn't one of the big adjustments. I think it was 2009 or so when we started running tracks. And we were from the standpoint of, I think I felt the same way as Jeff about going from analog to digital. We prided ourselves on being a live band, and we were afraid that going to tracks was going to take some of that away. And we've done a really good job, in my opinion, of balancing both. And so, yeah, going from no tracks to, okay, one song with tracks, and then two, and then kind of now where we are now, we've built a whole show. And Brad and Pig, I'm sure you guys, it's a different deal for you mixing that. And I'd like to know, we've talked about it, but I'm sure everybody else would want to know how you balance the live band and also tracks. So what's you guys' perspective on that?
Well, to elaborate, we have it's a stereo drum loop channel that has anything from just a shaker to a full-on 808 kind of loop. And then we have two separate instrument channels, and those kind of vary from song to song. One might not have anything, or we'll have an acoustic channel and a keyboard channel. And then we have a stereo background vocals. We have a slate or count off channel, so everybody knows exactly when to start. We have a click track, and then for now a couple songs we have a SMPTE time code, which is to line up some video elements with our tracks. The way I kind of deal with it is, well, I give the people what they want. Tracy wants to hear them all so he can know if something's gone wrong. Some of the band doesn't like hearing the background vocal channels. Some of the band only want to hear the click track. Some of the band just want to be a band and don't want to hear any of it. And then for Blake, I try to keep Blake's mix kind of minimal, so I'll give him whatever he needs as a reference, unless there's some signature thing that he wants to hear. But I tend to not give him too many of like the synthy things that can be fatiguing to the ears. If Tracy's playing the actual drums, I'll have the loops very low or not in there at all. And then if, in a breakdown where it's just loops, I'll get them back in there real quick so he has a time reference. But I try and keep his mix sort of stripped down. If you have everything going real loud all the time, it can be real fatiguing.
Yeah, and that's a challenge for you because he's not on ears. He's one of the few artists that don't have ears. So he's on wedges, man. So you're mixing wedges on top of everything else. I don't know how you do that. We try to get him on ears, it doesn't work.
And Blake can hear a lot of what Jeff's doing out in front of house too. He doesn't have the wedges super loud, so he'll hear what's coming out of Pig's mix too. So usually if it's bad, it's usually Pig's mix. The monitors are fine.
What did you say the monitors are very loud?
Wait.
Hold on. Did you say the monitors aren't very loud?
They're just loud enough to be louder than your stuff.
If he would just turn them around, I wouldn't have to do nothing. But front of house wise too, it's like everything else. Every other input you got, I'm getting them 6 inputs, and all you do is mix it, try to make it sound like the record. That's our goal in life, is to reproduce a record And, that's all we're supposed to do, make the best smoothie of the day. That's all we're doing is making it the best we can.
Yeah, we work in a smoothie shop, and the fruits we get are whatever Tracy and the band are giving us, and then we have our blender and we make the tastiest smoothie we can.
Nice analogy, Brad.
Yeah.
And hopefully everybody else likes, and that's the only reason why I'm still here is because somebody likes what I do.
Well, here's a good one, Jeff, because especially you would have seen the advance in subwoofers for, let's say, so obviously they're getting more powerful now, more efficiency with amps. So say if Tracy turns up and he's got a synth part, and then Brad's kind of listening to it in the ears and it doesn't seem overpowering, and then suddenly you throw the subs up and it's peeling your banana or something like that. It's like how do you kind of deal with that kind of situation?
It's easy. I tell them to turn that stuff down. My family.
He doesn't say stuff though. He doesn't say stuff. Promise you that.
No, we just say, hey, is that overbearing to you? We work with each other, and then we get it perfect for everyone. Equal compromise.
And same question to the backline to Jason and Ed then. So say if Blake, I guess if he's on wedges, he likes his amp sound coming from
He's gonna hear
or somewhere. So how do you sort of compromise to balance the level of that and what works for you, Brad, and what works for you, Jeff, out front with the two backline lads?
Well, I can say that the stage volume is to a minimal. I mean, it's the speakers where the sound come out are not on the stage. They're under the stage, facing the other way. So it's really a non-issue for the way that we do it. Blake's guitar amp is off stage. All the amps and everything are off stage. So the only thing on stage that's making substantial noise is the drums and wedges. But they're all in ears, so they're not really hearing a bunch of stuff either. So it's really just about Blake and just what he wants, and Brad's able to give him what he wants consistently. It is my take on it. It may be more difficult than that.
When we do club shows, we do end up with amps on the stage, and we'll figure it out. A lot of times, Kevin Post, that Ed takes care of, he'll end up right behind Blake on those club shows. So, and we'll just not have a place to put the amps off the stage. We try to keep it all isolated, and that way we can, really give people what they want in their ears. But when the amp's on stage, we'll either figure out if we could turn it down, throw a blanket over it, build a little box around it using road cases. We'll adapt.
Put it outside. Put it.
Yeah, I mean, we've put it we can run our cabling. We could get most of our amps up to probably close to 300 feet away from the stage if we have to, using balance cabling and stuff.
Amazing. Fantastic. Tim's back. Can I hand back to you, Tim? Are you ready?
I'm a little bit lost on what's going on.
Oh,
I just
sorry.
started hearing.
We were
I
just
started
talking
hearing
about.
again.
We just told a bunch of stories about you and how we were, on Toki, or how you were like the ambassador, the Blake Shelton ambassador, but nothing bad. I mean, it's G-rated. It's fine. So.
Well, I'll jump back.
I'm just getting back. I apologize.
No, you're fine. For a bit, I can jump back in then. So who's the kind of joker amongst the group? Is there a joker, or is there someone who's more responsible, who kind of leads the way? What's the
I think Ed is both. Ed is super responsible, and he's probably the funniest one of us by far.
He is the funniest one. I have to pass that along. Yes,
but he's also the most responsible. It's crazy.
It's weird. Such
a
balance.
How do you balance that?
No, we got a lot of comedians on the road, so it's equally shared. We all have our moments, but yeah, we have a good time. That's for sure.
And I think that's how you have to survive. When we were on the road quite a bit, that's part of it. Like, you're living with these people. It's almost like having a dysfunctional Thanksgiving family dinner every day. And so you love your family, but you also have to find a way to coexist. And a lot of times the defense mechanism is humor or sarcasm, as I'm wearing this shirt appropriately today. And you just have to deal with it. And you love your family, but there's sometimes you don't like them. And that's just how it is. And being open and honest is a huge part of it. when I've overstepped, accepting my responsibility and apologizing is a huge thing. It's like in any relationship. And I've learned, you know, we're married to each other, like it or not. And so we have to kind of deal with it like an open communicative relationship. That's a big word to come out in the morning, but that's just a huge thing for all of us. And it does no good to harbor any resentment or anything like that. I mean, the quicker you can squelch something, the better. And we have a good product because we're out there to represent Blake and his music. And anything that interferes with that, you kind of have to put to the side and get your ego out of it. But Ed, I swear, man, there's been some funny stuff we've done. I mean, there was a night, what was that, Roosevelt Hotel?
Hollywood Roosevelt. Yeah.
There was this YouTube video, but it's gone now. But when Tracy was being Jim Cantori in Hurricane Arthur up in Prince Edward Island, Canada, and they were doing the weather report. I wish I was still on YouTube.
That's when you know you really got them, when they pull it off the internet. That says, hey, we won. You may have pulled it down, but you felt threatened. So
Yeah, it was.
we did
amazing.
something right.
Ed and Tracy.
You guys make me nervous starting to tell stories. But you know, one of the humor things that I know Pig, I think, was there maybe, but Tracy was there. I think the humor comes from the top in your camp too. And
Yeah.
early on, there was the karaoke nights. And,
So fun.
and Tracy would sing "She's Like the Wind,"
Yep.
I think it was, and bad karaoke singer. People would make fun of him. And someone told Blake he sounded just like Joe Nichols, and they thought he was Joe Nichols.
Yeah. I think the funny thing about that night was that no one recognized him as Blake. Of course, this was early in his career. And we told him, yeah, we're at a fireman's convention in town. No one knew we were a band. We were just at a karaoke bar, and he sounded like Joe Nichols.
Hilarious.
Yeah, but so does the fun ever go too far?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And who apologizes the most?
I don't know. It all depends on how severe the infraction was. If there was no harm, no foul, then no big deal. I do remember when we were in Baltimore a couple years ago, Ed was taking his after-show shower, and I thought it'd be funny for me to go in there and throw some Gatorade on him. I figured he's already in the shower. You can just wash it right off. And it was red Gatorade. It looked like somebody got murdered in the shower. And I think Ed, we still talk about it. He was a little mad about that one.
Yeah, I had to calm myself down, but it was fun. I just got washed up. So the thing was, I washed the soap off, and here comes Tracy with the Gatorade. It's like, dang it.
I was giving you a Gatorade bath, and when a team wins the championship. You had a great gig, and I was celebrating with you. We won.
I felt it. I felt it.
See, Ed Tracy has to celebrate like that because he's a Cowboys fan. He gets no other chance to.
Oh, wow. You had a gig on that, huh? That's cool. That's cool, man.
Hey,
I've been watching you and Jeff.
Oh, no, good.
We learned
Good.
from our boss, too.
Yeah. I think the funny thing about Blake is that when we watch The Voice, we all the jokes that he says is stuff that he used on us years ago. So you almost know the setups before they actually happen. And once again, everything rolls downhill. So our boss is funny, and he loves pulling pranks. The thing about Blako, he loves to stir things up. And if you're not strong enough to resist, you get roped into this weird circle of resentment, man. He'll if you said something about someone to him in confidence, well, he makes it a point to bring it up at a sound check in front of everybody.
Hey, but he hates having pranks played on him during, he
right.
does.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to prank other artists, like the opening acts. We're not allowed to prank them during their show because he doesn't want the retaliation.
Exactly.
I know exactly why that is.
He's been pranked pretty good before. There's some good YouTubes of our video director, Sweet Pea, pranking Blake during the Brad Paisley tour. I think those are still on YouTube, and they're worth seeing over and over. And he hates it though. Blake does not like being pranked on. He likes to give it out sometimes, but yeah.
Brilliant. I've got a question coming in here. Sorry. Have you got any tips for touring for health, either physical or mental? Like if you're going on a long run, how do you keep yourself from getting jaded, or do you exercise on tour? Maybe that after show pizza, cut back on it, or anything like that?
Well, I know for me personally, I think the physical and the mental health go hand in hand. And so I try to get out and do something physical, because I can tell when I got this negative energy, I need to get it out, either working out, running. When we would play arenas, I was like, you know what, I'm going to run every step in the arena. Or Blake loves playing basketball, and he's not very good, but he loves playing. So just getting out and doing something physical. And much like a family, you're together so much, it's okay to go on your own. Like take a walk, go shopping, get away from the group, or find some sort of side project. A lot of people do recording projects, and there was a time where I had a website. I was interviewing other drummers and doing video editing and stuff like that. That was a great thing. I found that it kept me out of trouble because I wasn't roped into anything, because I wasn't hearing what was all going on. I was focused on something else. But the mental and physical health, they go hand in hand. And of course, eating, you got to eat right and not overindulge as far as alcohol, drugs, whatever. I'll admit I like drinking my beer, but that's kind of where it stops for me. And if you get roped into other things, addiction's a bad thing, especially on the road, and you lose sight of why you're there. I think, not to get religious, but we're here because we all have an ability given to us by someone higher power. And if you use that and you're not really focused and you get distracted by other things, like even messing around on the road, infidelity, alcohol, drugs, that to me takes away from the purpose that you're there. You're there to move with the crowd and support the guy that you're working for, or the artist that you're working for, whoever that might be. So the best thing that you can do to keep your head clear, whatever that might be, that's the best thing to do. And food wise, yeah, I mean, we'll have catering. And sometimes, you know, it's tough avoiding that after show pizza. It is hard. My weakness is the meat lovers. If it's pepperoni or cheese or supreme, I can avoid it. But if it's a meat lovers pizza, I'm gonna have it. And also hot wings. If there's hot wings, I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat a bunch of hot wings. So
yeah.
So we've got another.
I'll say
go
something
ahead.
on that. Sorry.
Go on, Jeff.
You know, we're here to do, we're there to do a job. And if you're messed up, if you're drinking too much or doing too much drugs like we used to do in the 80s, I mean, that was a cool thing to do back then, that's all we did. But now that I don't do that, now I can give my boss 100%. Okay, maybe 70, 60, whatever. It's a lot better than what I used to give them, you know what I mean? And that's all we're there for. At least now we can give them an honest day's work, We're there to do a job. That's what it's about. That's what it's about for me, as far as working with other people. If you're there to screw around, they're not going to keep you around very long.
Yeah, the industry has changed.
Yeah, totally agree.
Sure, I got so bad I couldn't even get a gig in the music business back in the day. But that's past. I don't do what I used to do anymore. So, hey, it's an easier, softer way to do the best job you can. Is just take other people's advice and do that stuff if you got to do that stuff, do it at home. Don't do it on the road.
It's great advice, Jeff. Well, yeah, Brad, I totally agree. It's more. It certainly feels. I mean, I came into it about the same time as you did. I don't tour anymore, but it certainly feels like the generation now. It's far more technical. That you've got to be so much more on it than maybe sort of 10, 15 years ago, something like that. So I think that's a really good point. Have any other of you got tips for sort of how you keep healthy on the road or approach things?
Eat. Make sure you eat.
Be the first one at catering every day. That way you get it fresh and hot. And you don't get the salmonella.
Yeah, don't get no salmonella. Well,
Yeah,
that's the quietest.
of course, it's going to be a little different now with the current state of affairs, and we're going to have to figure out some things as far as keeping healthy in the current status quo once we get back to work. I don't know what that's going to look like. Probably more hand washing. I don't know how we're going to have 12 people on a bus sleeping 2 feet apart. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I've always sanitized the mics up until this point, and now I'm going to have to do it more. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
You don't have to worry about sanitizing the drum mics. I don't touch those.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Maybe we could all get our own bus.
That sounds like a great plan.
As their own bus.
I think
we
Ed and
each
I are
get
just
our
gonna,
own
Ed
Learjet.
and I are we're gonna buddy up. Ed and I, we're fine. We've had so much other things happen to us. We're immune. So Ed and I are good.
Yeah, we've eaten catering at some of these county fairs, so I think we've already probably got the antibodies.
The bus companies would love us if we all got our own bus right now.
Oh yeah.
About time.
Sure would.
Sorry, Jess, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I wanted to jump over to a couple of questions we have coming in from the audience. This is a question for everybody. What is your favorite item to take on tour? Or is there any essentials?
Tracy, you can't say Ed.
No, I guess I can't. I guess I don't have any comfort. I bring a blanket that when I was born I've had. No, I don't really have a blanket. No.
Linus.
Yeah. I think for me, the only comfort stuff that I try to bring with me is like workout gear if I'm going to go for a run or something like that, because I might not work out that day, but if I didn't bring it, then I know I'm not going to. So at least I have wishful thinking when I do bring the workout gear, the basketball stuff, that I might actually do it. I think that's mine, that's kind of what I think. I remember when back in, the late 90s, you had to bring your CD player because that was your comfort. That was your music. Now that's on your phone. So you already have your phone with you. Or DVDs or VHS tapes. I remember when I first started touring in 1999, I'd always leave the house with some recordings of South Park from Cartoon Network, like that I recorded. So I would bring the 10 South Park videos. So I'd always have to bring those. I remember that. But of course now, you just look it up and it's there, and you can find anything. Watch whatever show you want to watch. So you don't have to bring that stuff. But I think that would be mine. Just bring stuff that I know that I might actually work out. So
I brought this like video game emulator. We played a lot of Mario Kart a couple of years on the bus, and the 4-way Mario Kart, we played it a lot. That was pretty fun. Also, when I have time, when my schedule and the weather cooperate, I sometimes bring a folding bicycle, which is a really cool way to go see the cities we're in. Of course, now you can get on a Bird or a Lime, so my folding bicycle is kind of a little useless anyway. But yeah, the same thing goes back to what Tracy said about getting out and walking or exercising in the place you're at if you have time.
Yeah, whatever makes you more comfortable out there.
I remember when Tim and I were on the road, we used to play Madden, and he would get me so mad I threw an entire case of Gatorade out the back window of the bus. So
Pig
Pig
likes to bring his sweatpants.
Oh yeah, sweatpants are good.
Tracy, you make it up a lot when you get mad. Tracy, you use Gatorade a lot when you get mad.
You're trying to get the endorsement.
That poor security guard almost got hit with that case of Gatorade.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Bring a lot of socks.
Oh, socks.
Socks and underwear.
I've forgot before. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially if you're on the West Coast and it's a bus tour and you're not flying at all. I mean, you need the video games and the the entertainment. I mean, because there's no option to run on the day when you have to stay on the bus all day to get to the next venue. So entertainment's good. Maybe even a book. I don't
Books are
read
good.
much, can't tell, but
You know, that rolls really well into another question that we had come in. Can you guys quickly talk, just for the young guns that might be watching, a little bit about bus etiquette? Does anyone have any advice?
oh, we all do. Right.
Don't go number 2 in the toilet.
That's true.
Oh,
But if you do have to, you need to have an escape plan, if you will, for the said items that may have been discarded in the number 2, like a trash bag and a bunch of stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And don't drink too much and pee in the bunk area.
and yeah. And just like you clean up after yourself, even like one little thing can it can start a whole flood of like if there's a dirty paper towel on the floor where they missed the garbage can, and then there's like coffee spilt somewhere. I mean, that's where it starts.
Yeah, clean up after yourself. Put your coffee creamer away. That helps. Wipe up the floor.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's the same stuff your mom beat you for when you were little. Just pick up after yourself. It's not hard. I've always said being on tour is not hard. Just pick up after yourself. Put your shoes away. There's nothing worse than going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and tripping over somebody's boots or shoes. I think I recall someone maybe possibly tripping over some shoes and getting upset and throwing them out the window during the middle of the night. So the next person wakes up in the morning, their shoes are gone. Well, you should have left them in the hallway.
So I got a question though. So I'm curious because I haven't been out in a long time. Now with all the technology, you're not bringing VHS tapes, CD players, and things of that nature. Is there less clutter? Because there was a time when you couldn't even walk in the back lounge of some of these buses because there was bags piled up all across the back. So with all the technology and everything being on the phone, is it better? Or
No, people still put stuff where they're not supposed to.
Oh, we end up with a lot of guitars and dobros laying around in backpacks, and it's maybe a little bit better than back in the day because there's less little things, but people still have to have their bags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the rules is that and that was a rule from me from touring 101 when I started. Your bags go in the bay. And the only thing you keep up top is your toiletry bag and your backpack. That's it. But man, some people just they have some liberties, or they may go shopping and they put a table that they bought or something. So it ends up on the bus. So you're like, cool. How about shipping it?
What's the craziest thing you've tripped over on the bus?
A snake.
I have no clue where that came from.
Oh, Tim, what about the time that we had an alligator on the bus? That was cool.
That thing almost bit my finger off.
So I didn't trip over the alligator, but there was a cooler that had an alligator in it. So there was that.
Yes. And I think we were towing that for a while.
Was that what that girl used to work for?
No comment?
Yep.
What was her name?
No comment?
I'll go with what Tracy said. Nice. Guys, do we have any other questions coming in?
I think we've I am unmuted, sorry. There is one that's it's again people early in their journey, and this is for Brad and Jeff mainly. It's how do you deal with bad venues that don't fit the rider, and what kind of things do you carry? So I think this is sort of starting out kind of question. So would you carry your own mic package or just the mics that you maybe need? Would you need to carry your own console if possible? And what happens if you get there and the PA's bad or the monitors are not quite up to scratch, something like that? How would you kind of deal with that situation?
I'll go.
Okay.
It happens all the time. I mean, it used to happen all the time. We ain't been in that position for a long time, but I'll tell you what, they promise you the moon on the phone. I've production managed for years, and you can advance all you want, and they'll promise you everything under the sun, and then when you get there, it ain't there. What do? You leave, and that leaves a bad name for all the fans with your artist, or you stay and do the best you can. We always stayed and did the best we can, and that's probably why they keep doing the same old BS. But, you know, the more you can bring, the better. The less you depend on that club is the best that you can do. You know, just bring everything you can. You know, you're not going to be able to bring stacks and racks probably. So, you know, it comes down to a point. I mean, I've mixed shows with blown PA with blown speakers in them, you know, and you just do the best you can not to let anybody notice.
I've been known to tear into the venue's gear and try to fix it, you know, open up speakers and.
Yeah, if you're smart like that, you can fix it, make it work better.
Yeah, but like Pig said, it's these days, especially with like X32s and stuff, they're so cheap. Like it's crazy to not carry a console. You can do 32 channels and a whole bunch of ear mixes on an X32, and at least carry, you know, your most important mics like your vocal mics and drum mics and stuff. You know, if it's questionable, of course, it's always better to bring your own stuff.
Pig, is somebody at the front door?
My dog's knocking.
Wow, you got a smart dog.
We're almost out of time, so I'm going to hand back to Tim to wrap in a little bit. But I've got one last question, because and going back to what Tracy said, that you spend so much time together. So on a day off, do you tend to kind of go and have a little space or stay in your room, or have you got a favorite day off activity, or do you try and kind of go karting or bowling or something like that? How does that side of it away from work look for those social aspects for the people watching?
I think for us, man, you find a place. I mean, I'm famous for looking for the cheapest beer in a town and the crappiest bar, because your overhead's going to be low and you got that per diem and you kind of want to save that. So you don't want to spend a lot of money.
Is it always a blue ribbon? Because that's what I always found when I was there.
Yes, sir.
Blue ribbons. Yeah. Right.
It was the best beer in 1898.
Yes, best beer. So on a day off, I'll try to maybe catch up on my sleep and maybe exercise or something. And then that evening is whatever it is. I remember when we were on the road quite a bit, I'd always try to find, if we were in a major league ballpark, go to a baseball game or go to a sporting event. And I think most of the fun that was had was mostly on those days off, because you're between shows, kind of get to blow off some steam. And me and Jeff, we know this very well, and a little bit of Tim. There was a time where we would park the bus at a hotel and they wouldn't get us rooms. We'd have like maybe 2 to shower, and we'd just sleep on the bus. And so we'd have some of the best parking lot parties ever. And that was when the running joke was, hey, I stayed in a Holiday Inn parking lot once. So we never really got into the hotel, but we would sometimes grill out or whatever. So those are, I think, shows are great, but the memories are made on those days off. So I really like getting out there, especially, you know, heading up to Canada. We can have some fun times up there. It's Europe light, so it's pretty cool.
I've been known to.
Blake used to do that when I'd be on one bus, and he'd say, okay, well, we're not going home this weekend or this week. We'll go up in the mountains over here. Whoever wants to go home can fly home. But otherwise, the bus is going to Connecticut or wherever. And that was always fun for us. But you just got to do what's best for you on your day off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been known to rent a car, rent a motorcycle, go see a national park. I don't like to sit in a hotel very much.
Ed, Jason?
We still have, I mean, on our days off, we like to hang out together. I usually don't disappear. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll disappear and just be gone like for a day and just some time to myself. But usually it's like we get to the hotel, we check in. I look at Ed or Brad or whoever, or Tracy, and say, hey, 15 down the lobby. And they're like, yeah, you know, and we'll go meet and we'll walk around and just go over the town or go grab some lunch. I mean, we all genuinely do like each other. So
We do.
it makes it nice.
I think we look for
Yes,
Hooters,
true,
not
Tracy.
for what you think, because we know it's consistent and the wings are going to be good. That's the only reason we go to Hooters. And the price is right.
Yeah. I'm with Tracy on that. Yeah, we all kind of hang out and may go play top golf, or like Tracy and I may just walk somewhere. Or we went shoe shopping together. So
In Portland, yeah, we did.
Tracy,
Yeah,
how
so-
many miles did we walk in Bozeman? Me and Tracy walked.
Oh,
The number keeps getting larger, but I want to say about 16 miles.
and I think that was one way
And then we found out there was a shuttle that could have taken us anywhere we wanted to
for free.
go for free.
We're dumb.
Yes.
Outside of the
Fishing.
outside of the cities that you live in or have maybe lived in the past, what's your favorite US or Canadian city to sort of visit?
I like
So-
Vancouver. Vancouver's pretty cool. And then spending some time in the Pacific Northwest with our good friends Kay and Mike Cruz out on Puget Sound. That's a great time. So I kind of lean toward that area.
Yeah, I like New York City and Prince Edward Island.
yeah, good time.
Yeah.
Good times in Prince Edward Island for sure.
Yeah, I like Montana, Florida.
Any place with a
You have a-
beach.
You have a place up there now, don't you, Jeff?
I got a little land
Montana?
up there. Yeah, if it don't burn down.
Right on.
I love it.
Is there, are there fires up there now or something?
Yeah, I should be up there right now, but it's no.
You got time.
They did. It snowed. They got 6 inches the other day.
Wow.
Wow. Very nice. Well, guys, we're almost out of time. We'll go a little bit long
Almost
here,
done,
but
buddy.
Just a quick question. I'll pass this to everyone because I think this could be valuable to the complete audience. What one piece of advice in 90 seconds, how to get and keep a good gig? I'll start with Brad.
Meet as many people as you can. Show up sober, show up on time, and admit it if you make a mistake.
Cool. Jason?
I would just say just be elaborate and thorough and be cool. Just be cool, man. Just be easy to get along with. It's easier to forgive someone's mistakes when they're cool, you know? So that's my advice.
Absolutely. Jeff?
I want to just say that, you know, I think when I can remember that it ain't all about me, it ain't all about me. It's about the whole group as a whole. It's a lot easier on me. I ain't got to be in charge. And it always works better for me that way.
Right. Right on. How about you, Ed?
Just having a great attitude and being able to adapt to the ever-changing landscape on the road and touring. So
Cool. And Tracy?
I think be the best prepared guy in the room. Try to be that every day. Always be whatever it takes. And that could be prepping, whatever you have to do. Just always be the most prepared guy in the room and give it 100%. And then no one will doubt you. And that'll show you work ethic. And to like what everyone said, I could pick something from what everyone said. And just be cool and try to leave the place that you were better than it was when you got there. Whatever it takes to do that.
Very nice. Well, guys, we are at the end of the time here, so I just got to say thanks for joining us. I know we're a couple weeks late, but thanks for coming back and making time for this week, and And thanks for using our products and being a great representation for us on the road. And we are really glad to have you as part of the Sennheiser family, and hope to see you guys on the road soon when all of this stuff clears.
Yes, sir.
And thanks for everybody who watched today. Please go to Sennheiser.com/webinars. You can see what's coming up. And also on YouTube, some of the past ones are now available. So go look for those. And if you have anything you need from us, let us know. Andy, Jessica, Sound Academy guys in the back, David and Kevin, thank you. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Sennheiser.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Take care.